Welcome to episode 8 of the She Built This podcast. I'm Samantha Charwood and welcome. I want to talk to you today about nutrition and why it is not just about fat loss. I had a conversation with a client yesterday and it prompted me to come to you all and just remind you that it's all too easy to kind of think about nutrition, and the only way that we think about it is when we're trying to lose weight, when we're trying to change our body composition, when we're trying to put weight on, maybe. And to understand that there are so many aspects to nutrition that go vastly beyond those of changing our body in terms of an external validation point, I guess. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand why we want to change our bodies. And quite often it is the prompt that makes us go, actually, it's time I did something about my nutrition. However, I've also had lots of conversations this week with clients around health. And for them, nutrition becomes important again as well. And so it just came really front and foremost in my mind about how important it is for us to view nutrition in a way that is about nourishment, and that the outside or external things that we get from that can then become a byproduct of our efforts, as opposed to our efforts making the nutrition decisions for us. It's always about balance. Everything is about balance. However, within the Sampira framework on my course, for example, there is only one video about fat loss because nutrition takes up a whole module and there's only one video about fat loss. And that's a really, really important ratio for me, because actually, I fundamentally believe that fat loss is not difficult or not complicated. It's fairly straightforward, but it's not easy. It's actually extremely hard to manage, and to get the outcome that you want, particularly if you don't have very much weight to lose. It's always difficult, but if there are big dominoes that you can move, and that they're going to have a knock-on effect and create a big change, sometimes it can feel like a more fundamental thing to do than when you have a fairly decent diet and you've only got a few things that you're going to have to inverted commas, give up in order to achieve the outcome that you want. But actually, nutrition is far more, for me, exciting. For you, maybe not, but it is far more nuanced than that. And actually, what if we can set up our nutrition to fuel our lives and give us this fabulous energy, this abundance that we're looking for, then the outcome could be that you just drop weight anyway. The stuff that you wanted to happen will happen regardless. And one other point I also wanted to make is, for a lot of people, nutrition can feel like it's not working because we don't see the results really quickly. And that's, I think, why a lot of people go to the scales to measure their outcome, because you can see a change fairly quickly. For example, you cut carbs out for a week, you're going to see a change really quickly. You increase your fiber intake, for example, you might see an increase in the other direction. And so people are like, well, hang on a minute, I'm eating more fruit and vegetables and I'm putting on weight. Okay, let's address that to start with. Weight is made up of so many different things. And I think I've already addressed this in another video, but I'm happy to go there again because it needs repeating. It is made up, your body weight is made up of so many things that actually, when you're starting to measure it and you start to track it, it becomes it can mess with your head a little bit, because, like I say, you can start going, okay, I'm going to eat more fruit and vegetables, and your weight goes up. Now, the reason for this is because what you've actually done is you've increased the volume of the food that you're eating. And so actually, your body is holding more food. Now, when I was doing a powerlifting and I would cut weight, I would weigh myself at the beginning of the morning because I had to hit a specific weight category in order to be able to compete. And if it was quite close, and on the morning of the weigh-in, I'm having to, watch what I'm eating, I literally would weigh myself, then hold in my hand the thing that I'm going to eat and weigh myself holding that. Because essentially that's what the weight is going to be. So if I was going to, for example, if I decided I was going to drink a litre of water, that's going to weigh a kilogram. So I can't drink a litre of water if I'm trying to get to a certain weight category and I'm only half a kilo out. If I drink a kilo of water, drink a litre of water, I'm going to put on a kilo. Now, obviously, I haven't put any fat on. I haven't put any muscle on. I haven't put anything on. The thing that's changed my body weight is water. So remembering that it's so nuanced, and actually, so it may be that like last couple of weeks you've been increasing your fruit and vegetables, you've been looking after yourself, you've been eating more fiber, you've been improving your diet, and your body weight hasn't changed. There are so many reasons for that. And the other thing to think about is, you may be aware of James Clear. I've talked about his book Atomic Habits lots of times. And one of the key principles within that is this idea of the melting ice cube. Now, the melting ice cube, or an ice cube, melts at 0 degrees. But if you take an ice cube out of the freezer, the room temperature could be 18 degrees, but the ice cube actually hasn't changed yet much. So if you put it somewhere, it's not going to immediately go from ice cube to water within seconds of removing it from the freezer. What happens is that it comes out of the freezer and it starts to adjust to the temperature, and it has to go through, say, minus 10, minus 9, minus 8, minus 7, and nothing changes. Nothing changes at minus 7. Nothing changes at minus 5. Not much changes at minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, and then at 0 degrees, the ice cube starts to melt. So if you are at minus 10, and you're going through and you're working your way through minus 7, you're making the changes, you're adjusting your diet, you're eating more fiber, you're getting good fats in, you're having a variety of foods and vegetables, you're looking for non-processed foods or looking for whole foods all the time, and you're doing this on a consistent basis, maybe you're at minus 1. Maybe you're just at the point before the ice cube melts. And it's easy with ice cubes because you can measure their temperature. When you're looking at your body, so many things are happening. And if you've been restricting or eating a diet that's not been nourishing you for a very long time, there's a lot of stuff that the body has to do to catch up with how you're feeling now and how you want to feel in the future. That's not going to happen in a week, 2 weeks. It's going to take time. And so thinking about this process of nutrition as being an inside out job rather than an outside in job. We're not looking for what the scale says, we're looking for how the body feels, what the body is made up of. And as a result, you will probably end up with the outside result of dropping a little bit of weight, feeling better, having more energy. But it's one of the reasons that so many people stop their New Year's resolutions or stop their, diet plans or their change of eating habits, because they don't see these immediate results. And the immediate results often come from a really extreme way of eating. And you get this quick fix, you get this result, but actually what you haven't done is the inside work. You haven't worked up from minus 10, minus 8, minus 7. You've just gone in, you've taken the ice cube out of the freezer and you've bunged it in some boiling water. Now, that might have a result for sure, and it works with ice cubes, but guess what? Your body's not an ice cube. And as much as that analogy can go so far, we are much more complicated than just water. We've got skin to regenerate. We've got cells to regenerate. We've got organs to look after. We've got a nervous system to nourish. We've got all of these things to bring together. And that's what our nutrition does. So when you're thinking about nutrition, if you're only thinking about fat loss, you've missed 95% of the things that it's useful for. Now, I know probably intellectually you understand this, but there is deep-rooted conditioning within us that has this beauty standards, these things on the outside that we want to achieve. And if we only knew that by doing the background stuff on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, or over time, and the great thing is that you can do this at any point because of bioplasticity. At any point, you can go, do you know what? I need to make a change, and I'm going to make a change from now. If you're interested in a little bit more of this, Then I have courses and things on my school community. You can head over there. There's a free course, How to Age Like a Healthy, Strong, Healthy Hippie. I remember the name of it. How to Age Like a Strong, Healthy Hippie. Free course. You can dive in there, look at some information in that. So please look at your nutrition as a bigger thing than just fat loss. And whilst it can be really helpful and fat loss can be really useful for you, there are other things at stake. I hope you've enjoyed this. Stick around for the next one. I'll see you soon.